Welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're looking at the Knights in terms of our team-by-team preview for the 2025 NRL SuperCoach season. So the Knights are another quite interesting team in terms of SuperCoach. Obviously at fullback, we'll start with Kalyn Ponga. An elite option, as we all know. As you can see, 80 average last year, owned by 31% currently. And a lot of that hype around Ponga to start the year has been around that opening draw, which is quite nice for the first 3 weeks. So, I can definitely see why people are starting Kalyn Ponga. Fletcher Sharp is another interesting option, obviously available at fullback or centre wing. But the chat is he is actually going to start in the 6 jumper. So when we get to the halves, you'll see there's a lot of different options. But apparently he is the front runner to try and, I guess, get him on the ball a bit more, because he has proven as a backup fullback that he's super useful. So, yeah, I've put Sharp on the bench here, but he could easily, be a starting centre wing option for your team. The centre wing line for the Knights, I think Gagai, Best, Marzu, Schiller, pretty well locked in, particularly if Sharp's not going to play on the wing. So, Schiller will probably grab that spot. Marzu at the price, given we know what he's capable of in terms of his SuperCoach upside, his tackle busting ability, his work rate, is a really intriguing option. But I think also Gagai and Best are potential options that people could be sleeping on. So Gagai's less than 1% of teams currently. We just talked about the great run they have to start the season, which is why you would play Ponga. But Gagai averaged 71 last year and has done this for a few years now. He's probably like the least sexy keeper option in the history of SuperCoach centre wings. But, I sleep on him pretty much every year, and every year he slips by and, just does the business. So, if you are looking for a super pod, I think Gagai is the one that a lot of people are sleeping on. Bradman Best, there's a world where I could see him in my starting team as well. Like you get him outside of Kalyn Ponga, fully fit. Greg Marzu on the end of that back line or that edge. It's pretty nice. So after that, you can see there's not a lot in terms of options. Obviously, Sharp could cover anywhere in the centre 3 or centre wing line. But they've got a couple of cheapies, Annan and DeCourcy. So I guess if there was a couple of injuries at the Knights, there could be some value in their back line. I guess the big caveat to saying there's all this great value in the back line is there's not a lot going on in the halves. So, and I even included Will Price in this conversation. I can't quite fit them all. I can fit them all if I do that. So, as we said, it's sort of complicated further by the fact that Sharp is probably going to take one spot. So there's going to be one half spot essentially between Crossland, Hastings, Gamble, Cogger, and Will Price. So I think from reports, Gamble is the front runner. I think they're looking to play Crossland in at hooker. But I think the short version of this story is that there's really no SuperCoach value in the halves. Maybe Will Price if he gets the gig at 5'8", but as I said, I think Sharp is actually ahead of a few of these guys. So, yeah, and because of that uncertainty in the halves and with all due respect, the lack of quality, there's no sort of elite standout halves options here. It does impact Ponga in the back line. Ponga is good enough to inject himself and get his hands on the ball. But, the likes of Gagai, Best, Marzu are reliant on that service from the halves. So, Yeah, it's a weird one to see how the Knights will go this year because I think outside of their halves, they've actually got a pretty decent squad, but they just need to find a 6 and a 7 that they can rely on and build that combination. So we'll look at the forwards. So I guess at hooker, Jaden Brayley. Um, we know he's capable of 80 minutes, but with injuries and also like it sounds like Crossland is going to sort of come off the bench. Probably not a reliable option. Matt Arthur's an interesting one. There's a lot of raps on him. Come over from Parramatta, obviously, under the system with his old man coaching there previously. Um, but if he can find his way into the team, particularly later in the season, could be a nice little downgrade option for us. So another one just to put on the watch list if he gets a start. The front row seems a little bit light on. Leo Thompson um, will probably lead the pack this year before going to the Dogs. Super keen for that in 2026. Jacob Saifidi alongside him to start. And then Croker and Hetherington on the bench. Um, there is a bit of chat about Cody Hopwood. Could force his way onto the bench. And if he does at 198, I think you've got to put him in your team. He'd probably be a slow burn, but as you can see, there's not a great deal of depth there at the Knights in the front row. So if he's there, I think he's worth a punt in your team. The second row, so I guess they've sort of got three edges with Lucas, Frizzell, Pierce Paul fighting for those two spots. Adam Elliott, you'd imagine, would be the starting 13. They've got Brodie Jones, who's a pretty handy sort of utility type player, can play second row, can play out in the centres if need be. Um, and then after that, again, there's a couple of cheap options. Kant's got a few games last year. Um, but Leo's brother Tyrone, another hyped up cheapie, um, so interestingly named in the second row. But again, if he finds his way into the starting 17 come round one, then at bottom dollar, I think he's worth a park on your bench. So that's the Knights. In terms of Supercoach relevance, just recap, Kalen Ponga, absolutely. If you want to start with him, I would not begrudge you that. As I said, I think Dane Gagai is the super pod of the year. If you're looking for a real sleeper, Best and Marzu, as underpriced premiums. I don't hate either of those picks as well. Um, in the forwards, like I said, if those cheapies get up, great. If not, I'm not really looking at any of their starters at this point. Um, just, not a lot of value baked in there. But I think we can wrap the video up there. If you've got any questions, comments, thoughts about the Knights this season, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you're enjoying the team-by-team previews and the NRL Supercoach content in general. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.